Hello and welcome to this presentation. My name is Rosh Mangalparsad and I am an English Provincial Coordinator for grades 4 to 9 in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Today I will be presenting to you on the topic Redefining the Reading Landscape in English First Editional Classrooms in South Africa. I will be looking through the lens of a primary school reading intervention program to share with you best practices that are being implemented in this program. I will begin with an overview of the population groups in South Africa and the languages that they speak. I will move on with legislation and policies that impact teaching and learning of languages. I will then move on to introduce the intervention program and share with you some of the strategies that are considered as best practice that could be implemented in multilingual classrooms. I will end up with the evaluation of the program to show its efficacy. As you can see, the South African population has four major groupings: African, white, colored, and Indian. The South African population speaks 12 different official languages. In addition, there are indigenous languages, unofficial languages, and languages for religious purposes. This is certainly a multitude of languages, and it definitely makes the country multilingual and multicultural. I am sure you must be wondering how the different languages are navigated in the classroom. Post-1994, the South African government gazetted legislation and policies. I will highlight four of these, and these include the South African Constitution, the National Education Policy Act, the Language in Education Policy, and the South African Schools Act. At the heart of this legislation and policies is the fact that learners can choose to be taught in the language of their choice. Secondly, home languages are promoted as well as the acquisition of first additional languages. And finally, parents have the right of choice for the languages that they would like their children to be educated in. Contrary to assumptions, parents chose English as a medium of instruction for their learners in the belief that English will put them in a better position economically. What was the result of this? The implication for teachers was that they were now found themselves in classrooms where children were multilingual and multicultural. Teachers then needed to change their teaching styles in order to teach English first additional language to learners. What is important is that teachers needed to be trained with the teaching strategies as well as the understanding of how teaching first additional languages work. Unfortunately, if teachers do not receive this kind of training to capacitate them, they will not be able to teach confidently or very competently. The result will be teacher frustration, which would lead to teacher stagnation and unhappiness, as well as learners becoming ill-disciplined in classrooms. One of the gaps that has been identified in terms of a need for teachers to improve teaching strategies is teaching reading to learners who are first additional speakers. To this end, a special program has been initiated. It is in collaboration with the Department of Education, the National Education Collaboration Trust, and the seat are responsible for education training and development. It is called the Primary School Reading Intervention Program. How does this program work? Firstly, it is implemented in all 9 provinces of South Africa in selected first additional and home language classes. It seeks to capacitate teachers, school managers, subject advisors, as well as provincial coordinators. It supports the transition of learners in the foundation phase from home language to the intermediate phase and the use of English as a medium of instruction. It provides a series of resources in the form of structured lesson plans, worksheet and resource packs, phonic charts, display sheets, and curriculum trackers. This reading program addresses partly the President's injunction that every 10-year-old in South Africa should be able to read with meaning. I am now going to move on with the special strategies that the program has. I'm going to begin with the Phonics Review program. Teachers are trained how to teach phonics in English. As I mentioned earlier, many of the teachers in the first additional classrooms are not English home language speakers themselves, and they may not all be familiar with the home language phonics. There are differences between English phonics as well as the indigenous languages. Let us now take a look at the video which shows the differences between English phonics as well as the indigenous languages.
Next, let's go through the short vowels. Please listen closely, as the differences in the short vowel sounds in English and African languages can be confusing.
Again, this must be explicitly pointed out to learners because there are similarities and there are differences between them.
It's very important to move your mouth correctly when saying the short vowel sounds. Watch my mouth carefully as I say the sounds. I, ink, igloo, insect.
The letter I sounds like I, inkomo, imoto.
E, elephant, egg, end.
The letter E sounds like E, emva, emonti.
A, and, ant, arrow.
The letter A sounds like A, amanzi, abantu.
O, orange, ostrich, octopus.
The letter O sounds like O, omde, onke.
A, umbrella, under, up.
The letter U sounds like U, umtu, ubuntu.
In particular, watch out for the letters A and U. This can be confusing for learners as they sound the same. Like the U is A in English, like umbrella, and it sounds the same as the A in an African language like apula.
I'm sure the video is food for thought and clearly demonstrates the need for teachers to use the correct version of the English phonics, especially when they are not home language speakers but are teaching English to learners. I am now going to move on to another strategy which is called teaching theme vocabulary. This is very important because when teachers teach theme vocabulary, they use a method called PATS. They point to the word, then they act out the word for better understanding, then tell learners the meaning of the word, and use code switching to help children to understand even better. And last of all, they say the word in a sentence and encourage children to follow in the same trend. I will now move on with the core methodology to teach reading with comprehension. As you can see, there are 4 phases. Firstly, the pre-read, where mostly prediction skills are taught to assist the children with storytelling and reading with comprehension. The next phase is called the first read. In the first read, teachers role model reading and explain the text to learners. Sometimes they use code switching to ensure that the learners are really following. Then, teachers read and model a comprehension strategy. Learners are given an opportunity to answer questions once the teacher has finished the first reading, and the teacher also uses this opportunity to teach language structure and convention to learners. In the second read, the teacher pretty much does the same, model the reading, teach the comprehension strategy, but this time code switching is not encouraged. Here, the children have the opportunity to turn and talk, and they practice the reading, modeling what the teacher has taught them. In the post-read, learners consolidate their understanding of the story and practice their new comprehension skills. For example, write a summary using a frame to capture their understanding. The main purpose of shared reading is that learners experience what it is like to read like a fluent reader. Because they are not really concerned about the technicalities of reading, they can observe the teacher role modeling reading and focus on skills of stories like story elements and characters. Learners can enjoy the text and develop a feel for reading as well as a love for reading. They can incidentally learn skills by observing the teacher reading. It also helps the learner to acquire new language. Several strategies have been used in the PSRIP, which can also be replicated in multilingual classrooms, and these are teaching theme vocabulary using code switching, teaching phonics, displaying the phonic words and the theme vocabulary on walls where learners have the opportunity to view them constantly. Children listen to the teacher role modeling reading and can also mimic the good habits of the teacher. A repetition of certain activities, like the first read and the second read, are also important strategies for multilingual learners. Praising learners when they do something well goes a long way to affirm them and make them happy while they are learning a new language. Peer discussion provides learners with the opportunity to learn in a less intimidating environment and to learn from each other. Lastly but not least, learners are able to make links with their own life as well as their own context, which helps them to feel good about their own languages and where they come from. In conclusion, an evaluation was done of the PSRIP in grade 4. 162 schools was the sample, and 1,620 learners were part of the study. The findings demonstrate that there were significant contributions to the professional development for teacher, in terms of their teaching and learning. The baseline and endline changes in scores for reading for grade 4 learners were positive but small. In terms of oral reading fluency, the change was pegged at 6.2%. That brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.